I welcome you once again to this channel. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share the video. Thank you very much. We want to look at what we're doing, the continuation of what we're doing in our last training. Today we want to look at some terms associated with Microsoft Access. Some terms associated with what? Microsoft Access. Now, as I was informing you that this course is about database management system, DBMX. This course is about database management system based on Microsoft Access. At the end of this course, students will learn to use the key tools of the database management system. Microsoft call the tool objects. So that's why I say I'm going to look at terms associated with Microsoft object. Microsoft call the tools objects. Now, the tools that we are going to learn about is this, how it is. The first one is called table. We have form, query, and then report. Now, what is a table? See, the table is the most important part of a database management system. The table contains all the data in what? In the database. Okay, if your data is not in the table, it means it is not in your database. So learn how to create and manage access or database. So let's look at an example of so this is a table. Okay, it's a table which I call with the prefix tbl_registry, and this table contains this field name. You have the people's ID as a short text. You have the people's name as a short text, people's gender as a short text, people's pitch, a pics or image as an attachment, people's attendance, people's attitude, people's conduct, people's interest. This is in what? If you look at here, we have two types of view over here. We have the data sheet view and then a design view. So when I click here, I'm in what? Design view. When I click here, I'm in what? Data sheet view, where I can enter data over here. The gender of the female, I can't. Here I can. That's the table. The table. This is a table. When you dive into the school-based assessment system, we'll look at the various fields. Okay, I just want to teach you about data, the table. So this is a table and it has 8 fields. These are the fields. Data type, you can add a description. Okay, so you are done with table. Now let's go to form. See, form presents a user-friendly interface for entering data into the database table. With the form, anyone, including children, can enter information into the database. In this session, we will also expose you to you will learn how to create and manage forms. We'll be looking at that later on. But we can create a form for this table. I'll close it, and it asks you to yes. So I'll go to create and I go to what? Form design. So it's a form. Okay, this is a form, and it will be prompted to, you can change the background image of the form. You can add an image to the form. Okay. Now go to all tables. Which of the table do I want to? So maybe I want to use for registry. I'll just click on registry. I'll double click. I'll double click. Double click. Double click. Double click on it. Double click on it. Double click on it. Double click on it. So if I'm done, I'm just demonstrating it for you. We'll look at how to do all these things. Okay. I'm just demonstrating all this for you. So these are the labels. The labels, and these are the input fields. So you can expand it. You can select all of them. You can adjust it. Okay. I can select all of them and what? And expand it. And expand it. See how I have able to drag this one. If I want to drag one of them, I can expand this place. Now the pictures, I want it to be at a separate place. If I can drag the two of them. See, I'm dragging the two of them. Maybe I'll put, let me select the whole of this, and then I'll send it here. Now I want the picture to be here. I want the picture hide this. So I'll come here and I will select this one. Come here. You see, I've only selected this one. This one is only moving. I can also do the same thing to this one. And I can expand this. Can expand it.
Please subscribe to this channel, like, comment. You can even share so that others can also benefit from this course.
See, there are a lot of things that you can do here. You can add labels. Okay. You can add colors. You can do a lot of things over here. This is a form. Okay. But we will not do this one. When we start with the school management system, we'll design a form. But this is just for demonstration purpose. So I'll not save it. No. So let's go on to a query. We need to know what a form is. So a form presents what? A user friendly interface for entering data into the database table. Now let's go to query. Query is one of the strong tools. One of the strong tools in the database management system of Access. We create a database so that we can query it. That's the reason why we create a database. We create a database so we can query it. Without a query, people will not be create a database. Okay. In this, the student will acquire the skills for designing a database and the skill to request information from it. We'll look at that. So if you create a table and you are unable to query it, then that table is meaningless. So we create a table in order to query. Query is about asking a question, looking for a particular information. So what information do you want to look for? So in our previous lesson, we look at query. Okay, query. I've shown you query. So let's go to report. We want to understand these terms. When I'm using them, we should be able to understand them. So let's go to report. We create a database so that we can generate what? Report. The report object offers tools not only to generate reports, but to print and share such reports. So for the report, it's like a printout of your query or your table. Okay, let's say the printout of your query. The printout of your query. Okay. After you have created your database and you have queried it, and you want to print out that information, use the report. Now we want to look at some other terminology, that is key. What is a key? What is a key? So we'll look at table. I will also display what is table again. Let's see what the table defines specific information about the students. So look at this table. This is a table. This is a table in access. It's talking about particular information about the student. It's talking about the student ID, student name, and the student cost. We have column names which include student ID. These are the columns. These are the column 1. Column 1 contains the student ID. Column 2 contains the student name. Column 3 consists of the student cost. All tables in relation database are going to have columns and rows. So as we're in our first lesson, we look at types of database. And we establish the fact that we have two main types of database: relational database and then non-relational. In the relational database, we establish the fact that that type of database, there will always be rows and columns. Okay, that is Microsoft Access. Now, columns are the vertical section. These are the vertical section. Each column defines a single attribute. We have the name column, as I say, the ID column, and the cost column. Okay. Rows are individuals' entry into a given table. So a row is represented as single student. It is a row. Whenever we create a relational database, we always want to have a specific column, which is called the primary key. So what is a primary key? We'll look at what a primary key is, or what is a key. A primary key is basically an attribute which uniquely defines the role in the database. So this is a primary key. And you can, if you see a primary key, you see a symbol showing that this is a primary key. Let me open one of the table. This is a primary key. This shows that this is a primary key. This is what uniquely identifies what? This is what uniquely identifies a role of this database, of this table. Okay. So let's look at why primary key are important. So let's look at the importance of primary key. So the table, you see the table, in our table above, what we have just looked at, we observe that we have two students having the same name and offering the same course. That is, Amish science. So let's go back there. So if you look at this table, you realize that there's 2 students over here which is offering the same course. Student ID, student name what? Amish, and then it's offering science. But what identified there uniquely is the student ID. That's this one is having student ID 1, student ID what? This is having student ID 2, student ID what? 5. That's one important of primary key. It is used to uniquely identify a particular person from another person. So you can have a school whereby 2 or 3 students can be bearing the same name. So what will enable us to distinguish between among those students is their ID. So with the above illustration, the only way to identify this student is by using their ID, for that matter, the primary key. This is why primary key is one of the essential components in creating a relational database. So the primary, what can the primary key be? The primary key can be a number, a string of text, anything you want, but it has to uniquely identify a particular role. Okay. So more on primary key. So this look at this table. We have email, password, and what? Date created, and then the time. If you look at the type here, we have user. So what will uniquely identify these 2 information is the email. Look at this. This is another table of a database. This is a user account information table. In this table, the email address is used as what? The primary key. That is what uniquely will identify the users. So because they uniquely will identify each row in the table, let's look at more about a primary key. We have another table about for our employers. This table. This is just a company database. Now we have the employee ID above. This is what we call the subrogate key, which is also a type of what? Primary key. The subrogate key is basically a key which has no mapping to anything in the real life. Okay, it doesn't have any mapping to anything in the real life. In other words, it's just a random number we generated for each employee. We'll be looking at that when we start the school-based assessment system. We'll be generating some random numbers, and we'll call that key subrogate key. They don't represent anything in the real life. They don't map to any information in the real life. We just generate it randomly to just identify a particular student or a particular employer or a particular user. So if you look at it here, for example, Kofi having 100 as the employer ID does not necessarily mean anything. In other words, it's just a number that is used to identify Kofi in the database. That's correct. So here, the primary key is for the employee ID. Let's proceed. We have another example of primary key, what is called natural key. This is a type of key that is mapped to something in your real life. Okay. For the natural key, it is related to something that exists. Okay. An example is shown below. In the table above, we use employer social security number as their primary key. And this is an example of a natural key. The SSN use is a natural key because it is mapped with something in the real world, which is the number that is used to uniquely identify each government employee. That's correct. So a private payroll, each employer has what? As a social security number, and this social security number identifies you. Okay, that is what you are calling a what? A natural key. It's what? it is mapped to something that is existing in the real life. So it's also a primary key. It's a primary key. We have another key which is called the foreign key. This is an attribute that we can store on the database that will link us to another database. We'll also be looking at that. Foreign key. The last column in the database above represents the foreign key. A foreign key stores a primary key of row in another database. So basically, a foreign key is just a primary key for another table. So if you want to link two tables, if you want to link two tables, we must have a foreign key, and that foreign key that is going to use to us to link those two tables. So we will look at what is relationship in Microsoft Access database. So a foreign key is one way we can use to define a relationship between tables. Now let's look at relationship. Let's look at the relationship between the employee, and the employee branch table. Look at it. In the branch table, is the branch table. We have introduced another column which stores the branch manager ID. So look at this. This is a primary key over here, and this one a foreign key. This is what we are going to use to establish a relationship with this. So here, if you want to link this table to this, we'll use the foreign key. Okay. We'll understand more of it when we start doing the practical aspect of it. So with this, we can identify the name of the branch managers, branch in the employee using the branch managerial ID. Now we want to look at more about relationship. From the employee data, we have added another attribute which is the supervisor's ID. Okay, Now we also have more about keys. We also have another key which is called composite key. We also have another aspect of key which is called composite key. This is the key that needs two attributes to be able to uniquely identify a role in a table. The branch supply table above shows supply name, what they supply, and who they supply to. From the table above, we use composite key, which is made up of branch ID and supply together to identify each row. So here, the composite means it's like composite number. Composite here, we are using two different attributes to uniquely identify a particular information in a database. This is because neither branch ID nor supply name does not uniquely identify each row, since the two columns have repeated values. See, they have repeated value. You have Ministry of Defense. But we use these two attributes, the branch ID and the supply ID, to uniquely identify it. Okay. So that's all. If you have any question, kindly ask. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. Thank you very much, and see you in the next section. In our next section, we will be looking at modulo and micros. And then from there, we'll look at data types in MS Access. Then from there, we'll start our school management system with what? A login system. Thank you very much.
Please subscribe to this channel, like, comment. You can even share so that others can also benefit from this course.